Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. I can promise you that week 2 of the college football season will be nothing like week 1. We don't have as many high-stakes matchups this week, and I can almost assure you there will not be 6 more FCS over FBS upsets. But week 2 is going to be exciting and important and historic for its own reasons. We have 5 huge games up on the board today that we are going to predict. 4 huge rivalry games, 2 top 15 matchups. The stakes are high in these 5 games, just like they will be for every team across week 2. But of course, Saturday also marks the 20th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, and that is something that is certainly going to be on our mind all day as we go through the course of these games, as we wake up for college game day, and of course by the time we conclude week 2 on Saturday night. Something that needs to be in the back of our heads, back of our minds, really I would say on the front of our minds, all day long as we play these games, because of course we would not get to play these games if it was not for the sacrifice of the men and women that not only sacrificed their lives on September 11th, but then have continued to do so ever since then for our freedom. So keep that in mind as we continue to go through this week, and of course keep that in your mind on Saturday as we go through week 2 of this college football season. So before we break down these 5 games, guys, again, welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, here to predict the 5 biggest games of week 2. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and make sure to check out everything down in that description below. That includes our expert picks. Guys, I'm telling you, if you haven't signed up for the expert picks yet, you're missing out. Now, everybody that signed up for them can tell you the exact same thing. Go sign up for them today over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. You get all of our college football and NFL spread picks for this 2021 season. We just hit 60% of our bets in week 1. It's going to be even better in week 2. We're beating out over 80% of the national analysts. If you have not signed up, make sure to do it today. Again, over on thegridironexpert.com, sign up for those expert picks. Our week 2 picks just came out today, and that includes NFL picks this week too. So again, don't miss out on that. All right, let's go ahead and talk some football. How about it? If you can look at our board here, we are predicting 3 games here. Obviously, our 2 games of the week are Oregon, Ohio State, and Iowa, Iowa State. Those are the 2 biggest games of week 2, without a doubt. The only 2 ranked versus ranked matchups in week 2. So those are our 2 games of the week, which means our official predictions for those games, who we have winning those games, that will come out later in the week in our individual videos for those 2 games. So we're going to do an individual video over Oregon, Ohio State, individual video over Iowa, Iowa State. The winner will be announced in those, not here today. But we're going to break them down lightly. So let's start with the game in Columbus. Number 12, Oregon, taking on the 3rd-ranked Buckeyes. And it's about time we're finally getting to see this matchup, right? I mean, last year we were already hyped for it enough. Ohio State traveling to Oregon and Eugene, that game did not get to be played, of course, due to COVID. Whether that game gets made up way down the road remains to be seen, but obviously now the game is in Columbus. It was a home and home. They're not going to cancel this one. It's in Columbus now. It's about time we get to see the Ducks and the Buckeyes, a rematch of the 2015 National Championship game, the first ever college football playoff national championship game. Of course, Ohio State winning that matchup. It should be noted that Ohio State actually is 9-0 all time against the Oregon Ducks. So obviously the Ducks are anxious to end that streak. The question is, can they do it? And again, we'll predict that later on. But here's the storyline you need to watch out for in this game, guys. We know that Ohio State beat Minnesota 45-31. Not the most impressive victory for the Buckeyes, but they got it done. Oregon escaped Fresno State, needed a touchdown with under 3 minutes left to defeat the Bulldogs 31-24. The storyline in the matchup I'm watching here is Oregon's rushing game versus Ohio State's rushing defense, and Ohio State's passing game versus Oregon's passing defense. Oregon, to win this game, needs to run. Ohio State, to win this game, needs to pass. Because the Ducks had 186 rushing yards against Fresno State. Ohio State, against Minnesota, allowed 203 to Muhammad Ibrahim and the Golden Gophers. Ohio State, against Minnesota, had 294 passing yards from their new quarterback in C.J. Stroud. Oregon, against Fresno State, allowed 298 passing yards. Kalen DeBoer's Bulldogs offense, one of the best in the Mountain West. So if Ohio State throws like they did against Oregon or like they did against Minnesota and Oregon can't defend it, if Oregon runs like they did against Fresno State and Ohio State can't defend it, you could see a potential shootout in Columbus. It's going to come down to which defense steps up big. Some might say Oregon has that edge, but Kayvon Thibodeau, the best defensive player maybe in the entire country, may not be playing in this game in Columbus. Was in a walking boot after getting injured in that Fresno State game. So keep an eye on his status, and of course, hopefully we'll have more clarity on that when we do our Game of the Week prediction. But we're going to be in for a fun one down in Columbus, a highly anticipated matchup that is long overdue. Another Game of the Week, number 10 Iowa and number 9 Iowa State, the Cy-Hawk game between the Hawkeyes and the Cyclones. College game day is going to be back in Ames. How about that? Top 10 matchup for the second week in a row, we should add. Last week we got Clemson, Georgia. For the second week in a row, we were getting a top 10 matchup. That does not happen. That does not happen, especially this early on in the year. Iowa certainly deserves to be a top 10 team after their dominating victory over Indiana. Iowa State actually dropped 2 spots after their narrow victory over Northern Iowa, 16-10, but still is a top 10 team. And guys, we'll say it now, we'll say it later. People always say, you see the most improvement from a team from week 1 to week 2. I think you're going to see that with Iowa State. I think you're going to see that with a handful of teams up here, maybe Washington, maybe Arkansas. You're going to see so many teams up here on the board that I think you're going to see a drastic transition in the span of 1 week. I think you do see that with the Cyclones here. Not saying they're going to win necessarily, but we do believe they'll have a better performance than they did against the Panthers. Iowa has won 5 straight in this rivalry series. That includes an 18-17 victory last time they played in Ames with College game day in town. How about that? The last time they played, it was the exact same setting. Big time matchup, College game day in town in Ames. And Iowa State had a chance to go down there and win it, but muffed the punt. Iowa recovered, game over, 18-17. And really, guys, this is going to be a game for me. Again, can Breece Hall for Iowa State run the ball against this Iowa defense? Because here's the thing. When Iowa played Indiana, we said Indiana does not have a rushing game, which means all Iowa has to do is stop the pass. They knew that, and they intercepted Michael Penix 3 times, 2 of which went back for a touchdown. If Iowa State can't run the ball with Breece Hall, Iowa can use the exact same game plan they had against Indiana to take down the Cyclones here. And that is, they can't run against us. We have one of the best rushing defenses in the country. Focus on stopping the pass with Brock Purdy, who at times has been very turnover prone. You do that, you win the game. We're in for a good one in Ames, guys. Iowa State only about a 4.5 point favorite. That number will fluctuate as the week goes on, but we are going to be in, for me, the top game of the week between the Hawkeyes and the Cyclones. After that, guys, we have number 15, Texas at Arkansas, an old Southwest Conference rivalry matchup, old Southwest game here, and soon to be an SEC matchup here, maybe as soon as next year with Texas moving on over to the SEC. These two teams have not met in the regular season since 2008. They have not met, period, since 2014 when Arkansas defeated the Longhorns in the Texas Bowl 31-7. Texas coming off a huge win over Louisiana that defeated the Raging Cajuns by 20, 38-18. Arkansas struggled mightily against Rice but ended up pulling away to win that game by 21. And that kind of goes back to what we were saying. Everybody is quickly writing off Arkansas in this game to say, hey, they struggled against Rice. Texas is going to annihilate them. You see a major difference from week 1 to week 2. So many teams struggled and looked rusty in week 1. They're going to look like completely different teams in week 2. And I believe Arkansas is one of those teams. I genuinely believe that. Arkansas's rushing game against Rice, and I know it was just Rice, but was very, very dominant. Something we haven't seen from the Razorbacks in a long time. The Razorbacks put up 245 rushing yards against the Owls. 245 rushing yards against the Owls. Texas had a balanced offense themselves. New quarterback in Hudson Card threw for over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. They have one of the best running backs in the country in Bijan Robinson, 103 rushing yards and a touchdown. But I'll say this. Barry Odom is one of the best defensive coordinators, I think, in the game, and he is on the side of the Razorbacks. I believe he comes up with a plan to shut down Bijan Robinson and force Hudson Card to win this game through the air. Hudson Card, a brand new quarterback, is going to come into a sold-out Razorback stadium. A game where Arkansas fans are actually excited for once. They have hope and optimism for once. One of the biggest, if not the biggest game for Arkansas football in recent memory. Well, within the last 5 years. Sold-out crowd, Saturday night, primetime ESPN slot. To me, obviously the home field advantage side is going to be with the Razorbacks, and they want this game. They want this game bad. And I don't think Sam Pittman lets this game get away from his Razorbacks. I believe Arkansas pulls off a big-time upset on primetime ESPN Saturday night, and the Hogs take down the Longhorns. And my last point on this will be this. Before everybody freaks out about it, I think this is very similar to a 2016 matchup here, a 2016 setting. In 2016, Texas took down number 10 Notre Dame. Everybody claimed that Texas was back. They propelled Texas to number 10 in the rankings. 2 weeks later, they lost on the road to California, 50-43. That same year, Arkansas, in their season opener, faced a Conference USA opponent in Louisiana Tech. They defeated Louisiana Tech 21-20 in the season opener. The very next week, they went on the road to take on number 15 TCU. Same ranking, team from the same state. Arkansas is getting them at home. Arkansas won that game against TCU 41-38 in double overtime. Drastic improvement from week 1 to week 2. Texas is due for a letdown, I think, after a big win over Louisiana. Arkansas going to be playing with a lot more passion and energy, and the Razorbacks I had pulling off the upset against Steve Sarkisian and his Longhorns. Final 2 games here. Washington at Michigan. This game is a little bit lackluster now. This was supposed to be a ranked versus ranked matchup at one point in time. Washington was the 20th ranked team in the country just last week. And then they went and lost to Montana, 13-7. How do you do that? How do you do that? All the credit in the world to the Grizzlies of Montana, but Washington, what are you doing? So while many are saying, why is this even a top 5 game? It's a top 5 game because it's a must-win for both programs. Washington can't afford to start 0-2. Michigan needs this win for Jim Harbaugh. Congrats. You beat Western Michigan in week 1. That's not going to save your job. Getting a win against a solid Washington team, and yes, I am saying solid because I still think this is a solid team, would be huge. You lose to Washington. Really, Michigan's in a lose-lose situation here. You win, people are going to say, hey, you were supposed to because Washington lost last week to Montana. If you lose, you're going to be known as the team that lost to the team that lost to Montana. Michigan has to win this game, and I think they do just that. I believe the Wolverines do just that because here's the thing. We know Washington's defense is solid, usually. Jimmy Lake, he's a defensive-minded coach. That was going to be one of Washington's strengths this year. Their major concern for us was their offense, and we obviously saw that on display last week against Montana. They held Montana to 232 yards defensively, but offensively, Washington threw 3 interceptions. Their quarterback, Dylan Morris, threw 3 interceptions. One led to the only touchdown of the game for Montana. You take that away, Washington wins the game 7-6. So the offense needs a lot of work for the Huskies. They only put up 65 rushing yards. That's what Jimmy Lake wants to do. He wants to run the ball. They couldn't even do that. Michigan, they have a strong defense. I'm not basing that off of Western Michigan. I'm basing that off what we knew coming into this year. Michigan was going to have a very experienced and deep defense that was on display against the Broncos last week. I expect to be even more on display this week against the Huskies because I don't think that Washington can move the ball against them. I genuinely don't believe that. You're coming into a primetime ABC game at the Big House. Excitement is high for Michigan. Washington down on themselves after a bad loss to Montana. To me, every single edge goes to Michigan in this game. Offensively, they have a great quarterback in Cade McNamara. Yes, they lost their top wide receiver in Ronnie Bell. They'll be just fine. They are on the offensive edge. They are on the defensive edge. They are on home field advantage. Michigan wins this game at the Big House, and they might win this game by double digits. And then rounding out our top 5 games of the week, guys. Again, not the most exciting week, but all of these games should be really, really good. If you're only going to watch a handful of games, these are the 5 you need to watch. Our final game, number 21 Utah at BYU, the Holy War. The Holy War between the Utes and the Cougars. 7 of the last 9 games between Utah and BYU have been decided by one possession. But it should be noted that all 9 of those games have been won by Utah. So we have some rivalry games up here, guys, where Iowa has won 5 straight against Iowa State. Utah has won 9 straight against BYU. Will we see any of these streaks end on Saturday night? Will we see any of these streaks end in week 2 on Saturday? And here's the thing. For me, I think you could see a similar result from the last, or 7 of the last 9. I think you're going to see a one-possession game between Utah and BYU. I genuinely believe that. Last week, Utah started off slow, beat Weber State 40-17, but it was not the most impressive performance. Charlie Brewer, the Baylor transfer quarterback, made his debut with the Utes, threw for 233 yards and 2 touchdowns. I believe he takes a bigger step forward now in his second game with the Utes, mostly because BYU's passing defense was very suspect in week 1. They beat Arizona 24-16, but they allowed Gunnar Cruz, the Arizona quarterback, to throw for 336 yards. Do I think Charlie Brewer puts up those type of numbers? No, but what that shows me is that you can pass against BYU. You can pass. The Cougars allowed 426 yards of offense. This defense for BYU is nothing like the defense we saw last year, and we knew that. We knew they lost Zach Wilson. We knew they lost so much offensive talent, and we knew they lost a lot of defensive talent as well. They were not going to be nearly as dominant up front in the trenches as we saw in 2020. So BYU, I still think, trying to figure out their footing here. Again, they've got a talented quarterback in Jaron Hall. They've got a talented running back in Tyler Algier. But the thing is, Utah knows how to shut down the run. So Jaron Hall is going to have to win this game by himself, and I just don't think he can do it. I'm not going to say Utah is going to replicate Arizona-type numbers from last week where they're just going to torch BYU, even though the Cougars still got the win. But I do think Utah has enough offensive firepower to exploit this BYU defense. I do believe Utah owns the defensive edge. The game, yes, is in Provo at BYU, but it's all in the same state. It's the Holy War. I don't really think there's much of a home field advantage in this one anyways. And I believe the Utes do beat BYU in a close one-possession game and will win their 10th straight over the Cougars, their in-state rival. 10 straight victories for Kyle Whittingham in Utah. So there you have it, guys, your top 5 games of Week 2. A big, historic, monumental Week 2. Again, do we have the matchups that we saw in Week 1? No. But we've got some dang good ones here. We've got our 2 games of the week. Those will be coming out on Thursday and Friday, so stay tuned for those. Obviously, we have an old Southwest Conference matchup here between Arkansas and Texas. Washington, Michigan will be intriguing in and of itself, and then obviously the Holy War. You do not want to miss out on that late at night on Saturday. And then, of course, always remembering the anniversary of 9/11 all day on Saturday. 20 years. Hard to believe. And, of course, we would love to hear your predictions for these games, and we'd love to hear your stories as well down in the comments below. Again, never, ever forget. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at The Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and also make sure to check out everything down in the description below. That includes those expert picks. If you haven't signed up for those, you need to sign up for them today. Our Week 2 picks were just released over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. You can sign up for them at any time this year. It's a year-long subscription, but I promise you, they're some of the best spread picks in the nation. If you haven't done it, you need to do it today so you don't miss out on any more of them. So again, make sure to go do that. Check out everything down in the description below. Help us help you. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.